Hello to everyone, my name is Vladimir Nosov. I'm a third-year student of Ural State Medical University, and my co-worker is Elena Fahargalеевна Gaisin, the candidate of science and associate professor of Ural State Medical University. Today I'm going to tell you about 5 scientists, founders of experimental pharmacology in 19th century in Russia. First of all, let's start with a definition. The experimental pharmacology is a branch of pharmacology that studies the effect of medicals and biologically active substances on the body and experimental norms and pathologies on experimental animals. The first scientist I'm going to tell you about is Alexey Andreevich Sokolovsky. He was born in Nizhny Novgorod in family of priests, finished studying philosophical class of the seminary, and in 1840 he entered the medical faculty of the Imperial Kazan University. In 1845, he graduated as a doctor with honors. On the recommendation of the professor Skandovsky, who supervised the therapeutic clinic, Sokolovsky was appointed assistant of this clinic. From the end of December 1848, he became an adjunct to the Department of Forensic Medicine and Medical Police. At the beginning of 1851, he successfully defended the thesis for the degree of Doctor of Medicine on typhoid fever and was approved as an adjunct to the Department of Forensic Medicine and Medical Police, where he worked for 6 years. And after the adoption of the university charter in 1863, Sokolovsky took the position of an extraordinary professor at the Department of Pharmacology of the IMU, and in 1865 he was elected an ordinary professor at the department. The second scientist is Joseph Vikentiev Zabelin, who was born in Vitebsk province, and after completing his studies at the Vitebsk Theological Seminary in 1854, he entered the Imperial Medical and Surgical Academy, where in 1859 he completed the course with a gold medal and was left at the academy for further improvement. In 1861, he received the degree of Doctor of Medicine, the title of private docent of pharmacology, and was sent abroad for 2 years, where he worked in all then known biological and chemical laboratories. Upon his return to Russia, Zabelin began to lecture on pharmacology, putting the study of pharmacology on a precise physiological experimental basis. Zabelin, with his lectures, literally revived the almost forgotten department of pharmacology and attracted an unprecedented numbers of listeners to his audience. The subject of his lectures were only medicines, the action of which was currently studied by experiment, and thanks to Zabelin, a pharmacological laboratory was set up at the academy. The next one is Nikolai Ivanovich Pirogov, who was born in 1810 in Moscow, and family of a small estate nobleman, and he would hardly have received an education if it were not for the acquaintance of his parents. Professor Mukhin of Moscow University noticed the boy's abilities and began to study with him. At the age of 14, Pirogov, having added 2 years to himself, entered the medical faculty of Moscow University, and the need to earn extra money in the anatomical theater led to the choice of surgery as a specialty. After graduating from the university in 1826, Pirogov went to Yuriev University. Here he works in a surgical clinic, and at the age of 26 becomes a professor of surgery. In 1833, Pirogov left for Germany, where he improved his skills in the Berlin and Göttingen clinics. When he returned, he published his famous Annals of the Surgical Clinic and Surgical Anatomy of Arterial Trunks and Fascia. In 1848, his complete course in applied anatomy of the human body was published, and Pirogov first tested the effect of anesthesia, the ether, during operations on the wounded in military fields condition in the Caucasus, studied the pathological anatomy of cholera, and during the Crimean War, he participated in the organization of the military field medical service. For the first time in history, he used the plaster cast in the treatment of traumatic fractures. And based on his own experience, Nikolai Ivanovich wrote the beginnings of general military field surgery. The fourth scientist is Ivan Mikhailovich Sechenov. He was born in 1829 in the village of Toplistan, Simbirsk province. The son of a landowner and his former serf, he graduated in 1848 from the main engineering school in St. Petersburg. He served in the military in Kiev, retired in 1850, and a year later entered Moscow University at the Faculty of Medicine, from which he graduated with honors in 1856. In 1860, he returned to St. Petersburg, defended his dissertation for the degree of Doctor of Medical Sciences, and headed the department at the Medical and Surgical Academy, as well as a laboratory where research was carried out in the fields of physiology, toxicology, pharmacology, and clinical medicine. From 1876 to 1901, he taught at Moscow University. Sechenov devoted more than 20 years of his life to the study of gases and the respiratory function of blood, but his most fundamental work is the study of brain reflexes. It was he who discovered the phenomenon of central inhibition called Sechenov's inhibition in 1863. And the last scientist I'm going to tell you about is Ivan Mikhailovich Dolgov, who was born in 1830 at Zalesye State in the Vitebsk province. He graduated from the Kovno Gymnasium in 1850, then from the Medical and Surgical Academy in St. Petersburg in 1854. In 1862, he was sent abroad, studied first at the University of Heidelberg under the guidance of Helmholtz, Kirchhoff, and Bunsen, then for 2 years in the laboratory of Ludwig M. Leibniz. And he was especially interested in histology and physiology of blood circulation. He defended his doctoral dissertation at Moscow University, The Modern View on the Structure and Administration of the Lymphatic Glands. Dolgov based his research on comparative anatomical and comparative physiological methods. For the first time in 1866, he experimentally demonstrated the possibility of reflex cardiac arrest during irritation of the sensitive nerve index of the nasal mucosa. He actively participated in the fight against plague, cholera, typhus, photoalcoholism. He gave public lectures, reports, and articles. In 1868, he was elected private docent of the Medical Academy, and the next, in 1869, he was approved as an extraordinary and then as an ordinary professor at the Department of Pharmacology of Kazan University. In conclusion, I'd like to say that nowadays the experimental pharmacology takes a big part in full pharmacology, and lots of scientists I told you about today, and not only them, have studied and continue to study science, and it gives us an incredible variety of effective drugs. Thank you for your attention.